People who are lucky are said to be born with a silver spoon in their mouth. I am not one of them. I was born naked and I live that way, and I've already come to terms with the title of an eternal loser. From birth, my whole life has been a mess. I have the feeling that Providence itself put a big X on me and wrote me off. I still don't understand why I am alive. Maybe it's because I'm stubborn. I didn't even come out of my mother's womb like other newborns, but with the umbilical cord around my neck. I was in clinical death for 6 minutes, even though the brain dies in 5. The doctors told my parents that I would be mentally underdeveloped. In short, they warned them that their son was a vegetable. Maybe he was right, but I didn't agree with him. Learning was hard for me, but I didn't give up. I didn't want to be worse than others. They even called me bookworm and nerd. If only they knew how much effort I had to put in just to learn a short poem. My mother and father sighed, looking at my efforts. Of course, when your closest people don't believe in you, you have to find a way. So I started studying different methods, accelerated reading techniques, memory improvement complexes, and psychological training for concentration. But Providence wouldn't relent. Apparently, it was impatient to cross me off the list of the living. In 3rd grade, I got hit by a car. It seemed like I wouldn't live, but no, I survived. At the farm, I got blood poisoning while cleaning manure. I spent 2 months on N4. I survived. And in 7th grade, I foolishly jumped off a roof for a dare. A comminuted fracture of my femur. After the operation, my left leg became shorter, and I started walking with a waddle like a duck. They even called me Duckling. It was only later that a priest in church told me, "You are wrong, servant of God, Sergei. God has not forgotten you. He helped you in everything. Accept his intercession with gratitude, but do not be lazy yourself." And I was not lazy. I gritted my teeth and proved to everyone that they were wrong about me. I wasn't worse than them, I was better. I got a diploma with not a single C, and then I surprised everyone when the lame Colia was accepted into a military academy in Virginia. A paratrooper, not a cripple. I remembered the priest's words, but I didn't believe in God's help. Apparently, the obstetrician was right. I was a vegetable. Only bad luck wouldn't leave me alone. And even though I studied well and was among the first in combat training, trouble followed me here and there. I got a stress fracture in my leg on a parachute simulator. The doctor told me over and over, "You're out of luck again, duckling. You're out of luck again." But the biggest misfortune was waiting for me at the end of my studies. I was so unlucky to fall in love. She was a good girl, beautiful and smart. First love is the brightest and most tender. My romance with her would not have ended, but again, cursed bad luck. I wasn't the only one who had a crush on the girl. My tactics instructor, a major with a fox's face and wolf's eyes, got in my way. He started taking her to expensive restaurants and bribing her with gifts. And the girl couldn't resist. She was tempted by the sweet life. But I was already stubborn, and I didn't give up immediately. I went to clear things up with the major. The conversation was unpleasant. Only subordination saved me. I got away with a torn button on my uniform. The scandal was hushed up, but for the academy, the incident was outrageous. A cadet raised his hand to a superior in rank. I was still given my lieutenant stars, but I was denied the right to choose a duty station, which all other graduates were allowed to do. The spiteful major took revenge. He gave me a duty station so remote that I fell into a deep depression. The zone. I remember how the head of the academy hid his eyes from me when he told me that an order had been received to send 10 officers to the zone to reinforce a unit of military stalkers. I understood him. He respected me, but he couldn't do anything. The command above him was more powerful. I don't know about 10, but I went alone. I had never seen such gloomy places. It was May, but it was like late autumn here. Everything was gray and unsightly. The sky was like a torn sack with dirty, cottony clouds. The grass was some kind of faded color, as if all the bright colors had been wiped from the palette. And I later understood why. The unknown here makes people irritable and afraid. Discipline in the regiment was poor. I had just arrived at the location, and I already saw 2 drunk officers. And the colonel, the commander of the unit, to whom I came to report, met me with a glass of vodka in his hand. As I introduced myself, he noticed my confusion and smirked. "Thinking of a drink? It helps with radiation." He took off his cap and showed me his shiny bald head. "See? I lost my hair over the years." The colonel laughed. I was silent. He frowned unhappily. "That's good. There's not much to fight here. We don't have parachutes either. But your endurance will come in handy. I heard you guys, like beetles, lug around 30 kilos of gear on your back. It happens. Scientists bring important equipment. You can't trust the dim-witted privates with it. We have to do it ourselves. I came for special training in the field of military stalker," I said. The colonel grimaced and waved his hand. "Forget it. You'll be delivering equipment as a military stalker. I'm so short on men that I can't even get 3 people for a regular position. Do you think this looks like a regiment? But, Comrade Colonel, listen, Kolesnikov. Lieutenant Kolesnikov, don't piss me off. This zone is a vile place that you wouldn't see in your worst nightmare. Dead people even walk here and sing songs." "Sing songs? That's enough." The colonel drank his vodka in one gulp and began rummaging through his desk drawer. I turned around and left the office, closing the door behind me. For a few minutes, I stared in complete confusion at the plastic sign, "Regiment Commander Gritsevich M.K." Then I went to look for the quartermaster. The regiment didn't like me right away. I didn't drink or smoke, but the local officers didn't deny themselves anything. They walked around gloomy during the day, but at night they let loose completely. I heard bursts of laughter and women's screams. This is not what I imagined my duty station to be. Shots and someone's screams were constantly heard from behind the tall fence. My head was spinning, and I started cursing my bad luck again. And it didn't take long to show up. During my first patrol, I stepped on an inconspicuous mound on the ground. Something exploded under my foot. I was thrown to the side, and my foot caught fire with unbearable pain. The tip of my combat boot was cut off as if by scissors. I was lying on the ground, and the sergeant, Captain Gritsevich, by the way, with the same last name as the colonel, must be a relative, looked at me with a smirk and said, "You blind, Lieutenant? They stand out like a snot on a uniform. What scissors? It's an anomaly. You're lucky your leg is still in one piece. Why didn't you warn me?" I said, getting angry. "I'm not your instructor." The captain grimaced maliciously. "What, are you going to run and report me now?" I didn't answer. My leg hurt terribly. This jerk hated me more than anyone else. I heard him talking to his comrades behind my back. "This lame guy is a snitch. They sent this guy to spy on us." That's how I lost my big toe and half of my second toe on my left leg. I spent 2 weeks in the infirmary and was discharged, only to end up in another mess at the former Agroprom factory. According to Captain Gritsevich, a big brawl had taken place there. My platoon and I were assigned the role of cleaners. Cleaners for whom? The captain refused to inform me. Where are you going, Lieutenant? Watch your soldiers so they don't wander off. Don't run ahead of your father into hell. This time, we were accompanied by a guide. The gloomy old man said little and moved slowly, stopping and raising his hand as a warning. He led us in circles and zigzags. As a result, we lost almost 4 hours, although the Agroprom, according to the map, was no more than an hour away. The fiery balls floating above the ground, the shimmering heat haze, the lightning bolts shooting out of the ground. The old man would pull small metal objects out of his coat pocket and throw them in front of him. At first, it seemed stupid to me, until one of the thrown bolts suddenly jumped to the side. The stalker nodded with satisfaction and led us in a wide arc. When we were only about 500 meters away from the factory, a strange trio came toward us. They looked like people, but their walk was shaky and jerky. They were dressed in rags. Zombies! Captain Gritsevich shouted, pulling the rifle from his shoulder and turning the walkers into bloody ground meat. Don't shoot! I shouted, but it was too late. I and the old stalker stared. I was twisting like a snake, sweating, because I was afraid I was witnessing the murder of real people. It was only when I got closer that I realized the dead were not people, or at least they hadn't been for a long time. They looked like they had died 2 weeks ago. Their flesh had turned black, and maggots were crawling in their eye sockets. I almost threw up. So this is what the zone is like, a world filled with absurdity and textbook horrors. And then there was blood everywhere. Blood and scattered pieces of meat. I walked as if in a daze, mechanically forcing myself not to step on the stinking entrails and charred bodies. Gritsevich, on the other hand, cheered up. Looks like we found a mutant meeting. Look, there are zombies, pseudo-dogs, black wolves, huge carcasses, and a headhunter. Hey, funeral crew, put the valuable trophies in bags. Perimeter group, fan out, and be more careful. There might be some living creatures left. He poked me in the side. Lucky you, paratrooper. They killed the puppeteer. Imagine how much money we'll make now. Sergeant Kaunos, take a couple of guys and carefully put the puppeteer's head in a bag. Tape it up so the brain stays intact. With a mixed feeling of disgust and pity, I looked at the stuffy, dead old man dressed in a gray jumpsuit. Why is he called the puppeteer? He's just an ordinary old man, except for his overly big forehead. A look of annoyed surprise was frozen on his wrinkled face. I turned away. I really wanted to step aside and throw up. The factory looked small on the map, about 7 buildings, but in reality, it seemed huge. All those reinforced concrete structures were connected to each other by above-ground and underground communications, passages, and a scattering of large and small hangars. You could get stuck here for a long time. It seemed like I was the only one wandering around without a job. The soldiers, accustomed to such cleanups, deftly cut off the heads of the hogs with their knives, carefully put something in bags, and recorded something. Gritsevich, red with excitement, commanded loudly, swore, laughed for no reason, and shouted, Be careful with the claws of the sniffers! Don't cut off their paws, but chop off their fingers. And remember, whoever finds an artifact and tries to hide it, I will tear out their soul with my own hands. And I'll tell your mother you died a hero's death on a combat mission. It smelled awful on the factory grounds. I wanted to run far away from the body trucks. Only a few of the stairs remained, and the red brick building itself had crumbled into a dusty pile. A dirty cardboard box was lying on the top step, but it wasn't what caught my attention. Next to it lay some kind of object, small, no bigger than a quail's egg, but it was giving off a strange bluish glow. I was interested and started climbing the stairs. The object was perfectly round, but as soon as I bent down to pick it up, a tiny hand darted out from under the box, grabbed the ball, and disappeared again. I froze, unable to believe what I had seen. I could swear I saw a newborn's hand. Holding my breath, I lifted the box and gasped in amazement. It was indeed a baby. Its dark eyes looked at me with frightened expectation. The little one was clutching the glowing ball to its chest like a precious toy. I examined the naked baby and couldn't determine its gender. It didn't have any primary sexual characteristics, but it did have small tentacles instead of a mouth. They moved and twitched. I guessed what was in front of me. We looked at each other for a long minute. I noticed a brown stripe on its neck, a mark from the umbilical cord. I'm sure I had the same one at birth. Maybe this baby also miraculously survived. Survived only to die soon. My current comrades would definitely not spare the little one. They wouldn't spare it if I didn't hide it. I started to lower the box, but I was too late. A loud cry rang out behind me. "Careful, lame one, get back!" And since I kept standing, the captain ran up the stairs and pulled me down. "That's a sprut." "A baby," the captain said, laughing. "And it's incredibly resilient. I bet a whole clip isn't enough to kill it." With these words, Gritsevich moved the rifle to his back and pulled a pistol from his holster. He took aim and fired. "What are you doing?" I yelled, pushing his hand away. The bullet hit the concrete at the baby's feet. The little one made an offended face and sobbed, just like a human baby. "Get lost, you freak!" the captain screamed. "Don't you dare!" I hissed and stepped towards him. "Don't you dare!" "Oh, you're a sprut lover!" Gritsevich punched me in the face, and my teeth clattered. Gritsevich fell on his rear and shouted, "Sergeant, take him down! The goat's fighting back! Get up, count us!" The skinny Estonian reached for the strap of my rifle. I didn't resist. I handed it over. The captain spat blood on the ground. He touched his wobbly tooth and promised, "You'll get away with a minor injury. I don't forget something like this." I was silent, and the captain's eyes flashed maliciously. "You better watch it, you idiot." He stood up, holding the pistol in his hand. This time I didn't have time to react. The captain hit the baby in the stomach. A loud cry echoed throughout the area, and I lost control of myself. My foot hit the captain's crotch, and he fell to the ground without a sound. A large dark stain spread on his pants. "Take down the lieutenant," the sergeant shouted. Blows rained down on me, but I was already in a fighting trance. I hit them like I did in hand-to-hand combat exercises. Only in the back of my mind did I command myself, "Don't finish them off." Still, I managed to break a couple of jaws, and the big Estonian had a broken radius bone. And then, as if in slow motion, I saw the silent old stalker throw a bolt at my head. I came to my senses with my hands tied. The sky above me had darkened, or maybe it was just dark in my eyes. I heard the old man's disgruntled voice. "The zone is angry." I remember being dragged on an improvised stretcher, but it wasn't for long. Seeing that I had come to, Kaunas forced me to stand up and walk. Apparently, his hand was hurting, and he took out his anger on me. Dozens of what were either dogs or wolves were chasing us. They were shooting and throwing things around. I felt something hit me in the back, and I fell. I barely managed to break the wooden stretcher. Some huge monster suddenly appeared and started stomping on everyone. I stood calmly and didn't try to run. The monster ran right past me. Kaunas, stuttering with fear, called for backup on the radio. I looked at everything with someone else's eyes, like an outsider at a theater. I grabbed the rifle that had fallen nearby and aimed at the monster, hitting both of its eyes. The monster howled and spun in place. It started sniffing but didn't find anyone. Helicopters arrived and shot the beast. On board the helicopter, I smiled at the thought that I wouldn't have to walk for several hours through the gloomy zone. I didn't have to worry about traps and anomalies, although dying in some puddle somewhere would probably have been preferable. Colonel Gritsevich would not forgive me for beating his nephew. I wasn't wrong. The colonel looked at me with the eyes of a rabid dog. He wasn't gnashing his teeth, but he was slobbering. And, a surprising thing, he didn't smell of alcohol. "Does it surprise you that the captain and I have the same last name?" He leaned in close to my face and whispered, "Do you know that Mika is my relative? Now you know. And do you know, you idiot, that you ruptured his bladder? The doctors are fighting for his life. Now I know. You will die a bad death, son," he said. I was silent. The colonel got more and more furious. "A court-martial. I promise you 15 years. You see, this zone is not a normal zone, but your life there will not be a joy. I'll make sure you're beaten from morning to night. You'll want to hang yourself." I was led away under escort, covered in the colonel's slobber. He had been threatening me for at least half an hour. Well, I told you I was a chronic loser. Everything was going according to plan. The solitary cell was damp and cold, and the walls were wet. Streams were even running down them. This was good. My mouth was dry. I licked the moisture with my tongue like a dog and laughed mirthlessly. "Oh, the Lord loves me and helps me. Maybe he does. Thank you for not beating me. Lieutenant, I brought you some bread." A thin hand reached through the bars. I tried to remember the young soldier's last name but couldn't. "Wow, you beat them with your crutch," he said admiringly. "Just like in a movie. Bang, bang, and they just fly away. I've been training for 5 years at the academy. I want to do that too. I wanted to be a paratrooper or a Marine, but they stuck me here. If you want it, you'll achieve it. The main thing is to want it. A person is the master of their own destiny. I'm scared," the soldier complained. "Every time I think I'm going to die. A person's life is worth nothing. And also the cursed radiation. I already can't get it up. I'm only 19, and I can't get it up." The guard sniffled like a woman. "The officers drink vodka and red wine, but they won't give us any. How else are you supposed to get the radiation out without booze? It's nothing." I cheered him up. "You can treat impotence in civilian life. You'll take some pills, and you'll love the girls with all your heart." It seemed that my words didn't have the necessary confidence. The soldier sniffled again. I ate the bread, drank the cold tea, and handed the cup back to the guard. "Listen, what's your name?" "Private Ivan Savushkin." "Vanya, why is the guard duty so poorly guarded? How many guards are there?" "It's just me right now. It's empty here, only you." "And no one has escaped?" "No." "Where would you run? The cursed zone is all around. They tell such horrors about it. And you saw for yourself when you went on the cleanup." I remembered the Sprut baby. "They're resilient. When it fell from the stairs, it just ran like a rat. They shot at it, but they missed. Lieutenant, you saved a terrible monster. It will grow up into a 2-meter creature and will let people's blood. It will take more than one life. There's a big sin on you." "Sin, you say?" I smiled. "I want to atone for this sin. I'll go for a walk in the zone and look at the local wildlife. A life for a life, you understand? Why, look at it. There's nothing for normal people to do there but be afraid and feel horror. And how will you go if you're under arrest? You'll let me out. Me, he said, shaking his head. I'll be court-martialed. Don't be afraid, I persuaded him, staring at the pistol on his belt. Open the door, I'll go, and nothing will happen to you. Why? You'll say that I attacked you. His eyes widened. How? Like this. I grabbed him by the neck and hit his forehead against the bars. I grabbed him under the arms and slowly lowered him to the floor. Then I took the keys and opened my cell. I dragged the soldier inside. A large, bleeding bump was on the private's forehead. It's okay, Vanya. They'll scold you. They might even send you to the guardhouse, but they definitely won't court-martial you. And there's no point in me sitting here. I'll either rot in a normal prison until I die, or I'll die here. Quickly, though painfully. I choose the latter. I locked the cell, grabbed the rifle and a pouch with magazines, and headed for the exit. I was lucky. It was night. I slipped past the sleeping guards and remembered the stories of my former comrades that no one survives the night in the zone. Well, that means I'll live. The passage to the zone was guarded by 2 soldiers. Both were snoring without a conscience on sandbags. A machine gun, aimed with a predatory nose into the night haze, was frozen on the sandbags. I got angry at such sloppiness. What if the unit is attacked? They'll all be slaughtered, every single one of them. Where's the duty officer? Why are the privates so lazy? The giant monster would go through the barbed wire like it's a spider web anyway. I had the desire to shake the soldiers and punch them in the face, but I barely held back. I wanted to turn around and fire a round over their stupid heads, but they might fire back with the machine gun. I couldn't find a passage through the barbed wire, so I had to use a bayonet and cut it. I'm going to step on something nasty now, and goodbye, Sergei Kolesnikov. There were forests all around, and they were full of frightening sounds. Someone was growling, someone was groaning. A burst of gunfire rattled in the distance, and then something exploded. The zone was not sleeping, and I was still alive. What happened to my eternal bad luck? It must have fallen asleep, my dear. I walked until someone commanded, "Stop!" behind me. I froze in place. I turned my head, but I couldn't see anyone. 5 steps to the right, the unknown person commanded. Who's there? I asked. Silence was the answer. I stood for a while, and then, as I was told, took 5 steps to the right. I listened. I stood for about 5 minutes, but the invisible person never appeared. Did I imagine it, or was the zone playing tricks? I shrugged and walked on. I saw a light ahead, flickering between the trees. I looked closer. It looked like someone was sitting in a hoodie, throwing a twig into the fire. To not scare the person and not get a bullet, I coughed loudly and said, "Hello. Can I warm myself by your fire?" The person sitting there raised his head and beckoned to me with his hand. I was happy and got closer. I saw a little old man in a long canvas cloak, skinny as a monk. "Hello, soldier. Tell me where you're from and where you're going." "I'm going to my unit." "Your unit is right behind you, not far away." "Ah," I nodded, sitting down on a stump opposite the old man. "And how did you end up here, Grandpa?" "I live here. I was about to gnaw on some meat." The old man smiled, showing his white, healthy teeth. They seemed a bit too big for me, or was it a visual trick? The air from the fire was hot and distorted visibility. "I wouldn't mind eating either. I've been hungry all day. But where's your bag with supplies?" "No bag. I said, spreading my hands. Only a weapon. I'm willing to trade a rifle magazine for a piece of fried meat, if you don't mind. But where's the meat? I don't see it, I said, looking at the lit area around the old man. I didn't see his rifle either. Maybe he was hiding it under his cloak. The meat is sitting right in front of me, the old man laughed. No, it's not a trick. The old man's teeth really are huge. What are you talking about, Grandpa? You, little one, are young and tender. You'll last a long time. He's a crazy old man, I thought, but fear snaked up between my shoulder blades. So you're a cannibal, my dear sir? I said, moving my rifle from my back to my stomach. The barrel of the rifle was pointed at the smiling old man's forehead. He didn't even seem to notice. He kept smiling and his blue, foxy eyes twinkled at me. Young and tender, he repeated and added, and the bones crunch so sweetly, and the broth is hot and sweet. What's that protrusion to the left? I wondered, looking at the folds of his cloak. My hand is clutching the pistol. He just needs to make a move, and I'll make a mess of him. All right, son, it's time to eat, the old man said, and carelessly moved his shoulder. The cloak opened a little, revealing an ugly, hypertrophied hand. I didn't have time to examine it. A commanding voice rang out behind me. Not this time, hog. The old man twitched and froze. His eyes, full of horror, were looking behind me. I immediately jumped to the side, trying to keep both the old man and the stranger in sight. The person came out of the shadows and into the firelight, and I saw a real stalker. He looked like he came straight out of a stupid poster that hung in the regiment's red room. If you see one, arrest him. If he resists, shoot to kill. I was moving my rifle between the old man and the stalker, but they were ignoring me. They were just looking at each other. The old man was clearly scared, and the stalker had a smirk on his face. In the firelight, an unknown black pistol gleamed in the stalker's hand. The stranger said quietly, addressing me, Put your weapon down, kid. I'm not your enemy. Strangely, I believed him right away, and his voice seemed familiar to me. I'm not your enemy, the stalker repeated. But this dear hog wanted to eat you for dinner, and he would have if I had hesitated for a second. And the rifle wouldn't have helped. I have the right to, the old man mumbled. He's a stranger. Everyone wants to eat. But he's under your protection, the stalker said, and put his pistol back in the holster. He pulled something out of his pocket and threw it at the old man. No, it wasn't a hand, because it had no fingers. This incredible limb ended in a pointed bony hook, and the pouch the stalker had thrown was swinging from it. It was so unnatural and terrifying that I recoiled. The old man took the bone and grabbed the offering with his other hand, sniffed it, and grinned. Thank you very much. He was smiling, but his eyes were still filled with fear. Well, I'll be going. Go, the stalker approved. The mutant slowly backed away, like a crab, and soon disappeared into the darkness. The stalker dropped a heavy bag on the ground and sat down on a stump by the fire. He made a welcoming gesture. What are you standing for? Sit down. Let's have dinner. I had to sit in the old man's spot, with my back to the cannibal who had left. What if this evil creature hasn't gone far? It's just hiding and waiting. I shuddered inwardly. He won't come back. The stalker guessed my thoughts. He's very scared. Who was that? I asked carefully. The stalker shrugged. Just a gatherer. And what does he gather? Other people's lives. The zone has decreed that after each kill, a notch appears on their mutated hand. They are like the notches snipers make on their rifle stocks. Gatherers believe that when they have 10,000, they will become human again. How many did that one have? 1,000, probably. I shivered. He's a serious old man. These are former people, so it's easy for them to talk to their victims for hours and then, when they see an opportunity, kill them. Usually they're careful and wait until the person relaxes and loses their guard. But Karam is too cocky. He thinks he can swing his hook faster than a bullet. As he spoke, the stalker slowly untied the whole bag and pulled out 2 cans of canned meat. He opened them with a knife and handed one to me. Help yourself. I have nothing to thank you with, I said, looking greedily at the juicy meat. I can give you a rifle magazine. I have enough of that. The stalker laughed, patting his vest. You should save your ammo. Your life depends on it in the zone. I'm afraid I only have a couple of these tasty treats left. But my new acquaintance didn't offer any more. He handed me his flask and said, Drink to our acquaintance. It's a very good whiskey. I don't really drink, I said, feeling embarrassed. That's just how it is. First, I was studying at the academy, then I was sent here, and I just don't like it. You have to, the stalker said strictly. I'm not offering you much. Just a sip for your health. You can't afford to get sick right now. All right. I gave in. I took the flask, smelled it. It smelled of some herbs. I took a big gulp and coughed. My throat was on fire. That's strong stuff. The stalker laughed. Local production of a useful anomaly called moonshine. You never know what it will turn into, beer, cognac, or wine. I was lucky. It turned into moonshine. If it had been something else, I wouldn't have offered it to you. He took the flask back and took a sip himself. He grinned contentedly. Awesome. It was an amazing thing. After one sip, I suddenly felt so calm and happy. My anxieties receded, and the person sitting opposite me seemed like a decent guy. My name is Sergey. I introduced myself. Sergey Kolesnikov. The zone doesn't have names. Only nicknames. Mine is Friend. And yours, my friend, is Duckling. A good name for you. At the academy, they called me Duckling. Maybe I should take it? Nicknames are given by others. He said. The zone whispers them to you. Duckling is a little too pretentious and soft. I laughed. Why Duckling? Because you limp? He said. The old man said they wouldn't take a lame person. Do you know how I run? A 10-mile march with a full pack in 62 minutes. Unexpectedly for myself, I began to tell the story of my life, starting with my bad luck at birth, the blows of fate, my unlucky assignment, the 2 Gritseviches, my first love, which ended in a fight with a teacher, and the girl's betrayal. I talked about a lot of things. He listened without interrupting, sometimes nodding. And I looked at him and wanted to believe that I had finally met a real friend, a friend that I had been missing so much. Your name is Friend? And your nickname is Friend? Yeah, he said. I was too quick to call you Duckling. Lucky Guy would be a better fit. You're just like that priest of yours. He was right. You'd have to look far and wide to find a guy as lucky as you. However, it's getting late. It's time to go to sleep. You're right. I've been talking like an idiot. We're not on a picnic. We're in a creepy zone. We have to be on guard. Listen, I suggested. We should take turns on watch. No need. He waved his hand. I'll throw a tear out. No one will come within 100 yards. A tear? What kind of tear? He pulled out a small, oblong red item from his pocket and threw it on the ground. A useful artifact, but it doesn't last long. Only 3 days, and it disappears. Today is the third day. I looked warily at the strange object and moved away. It doesn't affect its owners, my friend said. He rummaged in his bag, pulled out a PDA, and placed it on the grass. Then he took out a small container, opened it, and took a handful of something that looked like a billiard ball. The ball glowed from within with a yellow flame. This is another useful thing. Rare and expensive. At night, strap it to your sore leg. It will help. But my leg doesn't hurt. It's been 2 weeks since I stepped on those scissors. My wounds heal like a dog's. It tingles a little, that's all, my friend repeated and handed me some electrical tape. It will heal the bump on your forehead too. And here's one more thing. Take this PDA. I loaded a map and all the data about the latest anomalies onto it. They're marked in red. Go carefully and don't let go of the computer. You're an inexperienced person. You could accidentally fall into a trap. You need to go to the striped guy. He's a local trader who runs the 3-7's bar. He's the closest one from here. He's a greedy old man, but he's fair. He should help you. That's a valuable gift. What about you? I have a lot of this stuff. I found 6 of them yesterday. Let's go to sleep, Chatterbox. I fell asleep right away, as soon as I lay down on the ground. I didn't even see how my new friend settled down for the night. I slept without dreams. When I woke up, I felt rested and cheerful. And here I had no wounds or sore spots. I was worried that the wound would get infected and I would end up like I did in school with a rusty nail. But to my amazement, the bump was gone. What the hell? The old man got me right here. He hit my nose. It was clean, as if there had never been a wound. I looked around, wanting to ask my friend about the bump, but the stalker was nowhere to be found. A light breeze rustled the leaves on the trees and the cobwebs on the bushes. Where could my friend have gone? Oh well, he'll come back. I stood up and stretched. I did a squat. A sphere glowing from within with an amber flame was taped to my left leg. I snorted and ripped it off. I had a hard time walking as I did before the scissors. Fearing to believe the unbelievable, I sat down and took off my boot. I squeezed my eyes shut. I carefully opened my eyes. All my toes were there. How? The cursed anomaly had cut off my big toe and half of my second one. Did they grow back overnight? Friend! I yelled. My toes grew back, but no one answered. Damn, who would believe me? Am I in a fairy tale? Of course he's not a lizard. Could this glowing sphere be the reason for all of this? If so, this artifact is priceless. In civilian life, you could ask for $1 million for it. No, what's $1 million? $1 billion, and they would pay it and even kiss your feet. I jumped up and down on the spot. This is a real catch, or as stalkers say, loot. But where was my friend? Where had he disappeared to? If he had gone to pee, he would have been back by now. It was only 3 hours later that I understood. My new friend had left me for good. I felt incredibly sad, as if I had lost something very expensive and irreplaceable. Some friend. I was angry. He left me alone in the zone. Doesn't he understand that I can't survive without him? A long howl echoed nearby. Somewhere, the bushes crackled distinctly. Here we go. I winced. Show me the anomalies, PDA. The screen was a blank page. Anomalies everywhere, I thought. I stopped, remembering where I had put the PDA. I started rummaging in my pockets. It was in the pouch with the magazines. I don't remember putting it there. My friend must have put it there. That's right. There's dew on the grass in the morning, and electronics need to be protected from moisture. A strange place to store a computer, though. I turned on the device, and the smart machine pinpointed my location. I shuddered when I saw a big pulsating red dot on the screen. One more step, and I would have been right in front of an unknown anomaly. And that's luck. Real luck. Just like he said, a natural lucky guy. Carefully avoiding the dangerous trap, I moved on. About an hour later, 3 green dots appeared on the screen. They were moving toward me. Who are they? People or mutants? My friend hadn't explained what to do. Go toward them or be careful. They say people here aren't kind. They might shoot you for your rifle and artifact. Nah, screw it. God protects the cautious. I turned away and sped up, looking at the PDA's screen. The bar was too far away. With these anomalies, I might not make it there until night, given how slowly I was walking. Some friend. He didn't even leave me any food. And I was already really hungry. I walked for what seemed like an endless step. The wind swayed the white tops of the dwarf feather grass, and there was an unaccustomed silence. No shots or screams from the zone were heard, as if it had died out. The PDA didn't find any anomalies either, but that was a good thing. Silence was better than a blood-curdling scream. Despite being used to long-distance marches, I was pretty tired. The nervous tension was taking its toll. When a deserted village appeared on the horizon, I wanted to lie down and stretch my legs. The village had no name. It was marked with a green cross on the map. It was a good thing it wasn't a red one. In front, a small river covered with sedge shimmered, and behind it, a few crooked huts huddled together. A shaky bridge crossed the river. It was a normal pastoral landscape, as if it had come from the paintings of Shishkin or Polnov. The only thing was that the houses in those famous painters' works were more elegant. These local ones had collapsed roofs, broken windows, and logs blackened by dampness and rot. But I was still happy to see human dwellings. Something's not right here. I could even hold a defense here. A defense against whom? I didn't know. And what kind of defense could I hold with 3 rifle magazines? That's about 3 minutes of a good fight, even if I fired in short bursts. Just in case, I scanned the area in front of me with the PDA. I even broke a sweat when I saw a lot of green dots behind me. There were so many of them that they sometimes merged into a big ugly blob. And these dots were rapidly approaching. Soon I heard the barking and howling of dogs. A hell of a lot of dogs. I had heard about the zone's dogs and didn't have any rosy illusions. I ran across the bridge as fast as I could, just trying to get into the nearest house. One of the rotten planks collapsed under my weight, and I bruised my leg badly, but I ignored the pain, got up, and ran on. Finally, I was at the saving house. I flew into the room and stopped dead in my tracks. The hut had no door at all. There was no time to look for another shelter. The yard was filled with a pack of disgusting red dogs. I groaned in frustration and anger. I'm in for it now. I watched the dogs through the broken window. There were so many of them that there was no point in counting. They were thin and covered in festering wounds, with their ribs protruding from under their skin. These mangy creatures were circling the house and sniffing the air. They're coming for a snack, and there's not enough for everyone. I'll only kill the most aggressive ones today, I thought detachedly. So look death in the face, red dogs. But the dogs had nothing to look with. To my horror, I discovered that they were blind. Some of them didn't even have a hint of an eye on their snouts. Others had some kind of rudiments of underdeveloped eyelids. But their sense of smell was perfect. A couple of the most desperate or most hungry dogs purposefully rushed toward the doorway. I huddled in the far corner and raised my rifle. I cut the first one down in midair. The burst of fire threw the predator away, turning its snout into a bloody mess. The second one had its side pierced. It fell to the floor, and while it was dying, it was gnashing its teeth. The dogs were circling the house, but were afraid to attack. I didn't flatter myself with empty hopes. As long as there was two-legged meat in the house, they wouldn't leave. My life was measured by the number of remaining cartridges. Oh, I should have asked my friend for a couple of magazines, although that would have only postponed the inevitable. I put the rifle on my back. I approached the dead dogs, grabbed them by the tails, and threw them out, one by one. I threw two out. The living, with a hungry growl, lunged at the dead bodies and gnawed on each other in the fight for food. In a minute, there was no trace of the two carcasses left. They even licked up the blood. At least I wouldn't suffer for long. Suddenly silence fell. I cautiously looked out the window and saw a new character. A big black dog, well-fed, smooth. A cross between a German shepherd and a bulldog. He was sitting in the distance on a wooden barrel, like a commander on a rise, and he didn't take his eyes off me. Unlike his red relatives, the black one had huge eyes. Suddenly, my head started spinning, and my hands started shaking. What the hell? Is it hypnotizing me? I raised my rifle and gave the black dog a short burst of fire. The bullets hit the barrel. It fell on its side and rolled away. But the dog wasn't on it. It was much to the left, sitting as if nothing had happened and staring at me. Take that, demon! I fired at him again, and he disappeared again, only to reappear in a different spot. What the hell is this? I threw the empty magazine away and put in a new one. I looked out the window and saw the dog nodding its big forehead toward me, as if it was a human. And in the same second, the whole pack rushed at me. I don't remember what happened next very well. I was screaming and shooting at the avalanche of red beasts. The cartridges ran out a long time ago. I was hitting them with the butt of the rifle. I stopped because of the sudden silence. Only a ringing in my ears remained from the gunshots. There was a bluish smoke floating in the house. There were a dozen dead dogs on the floor. My right arm was bitten. Blood was dripping in heavy, ruby-colored drops. And my pants were torn, and a big purple bruise was visible through the tear. That was from when I had fallen on the bridge. Completely exhausted, I went to the window to look at the black dog. Something told me that they hadn't just run away. I wasn't even surprised when I saw my friend. He was sitting on a hill across the river and beckoning me. Anger gave me strength. I ran to him. Why did you leave? You left me. I almost died. Don't yell, he smiled. Sit down. Let's have dinner. I'm not hungry. Why did you do this to me? In the zone, it's every man for himself. Haven't you understood that? But you called yourself my friend. It's just a nickname, Duckling. I don't have friends. I'm always alone. He looked at me sadly. I didn't leave you. I'm right here. Here, I mumbled, a little calmer. What did you use to scare them away? A tear. No creature can resist it. Pick it up later. It's lying by the door. It's a poisonous yellow crystal. It will come in handy. And I also added a contact to your PDA. You could have called me earlier. I took out the computer. Indeed, there was only one contact. Friend. The stalker took a stick of sausage out of his bag and started carefully cutting it into slices. A loaf of real white bread was lying next to it. My mouth watered. Where did you get all this luxury? A gift from the zone. He smiled. We fell silent. It was getting dark quickly. I looked up at the sky and saw no stars. What a strange place, I said. Everything is wrong here. It's like this little zone is another planet. It's not small, my friend replied. It's as endless as the universe. And people can't understand it. You'll understand that when the time comes. He handed me a sausage sandwich. Let's drink and go to sleep. Not that whiskey again. I'd rather have some real French cognac. We both laughed. Already in the house, getting ready to go to sleep, my friend said. The striped guy can help you leave the zone, but you can no longer be the same as you were. You become a stalker. I haven't become anyone yet. Yes, you have. But it's in your power to leave or to stay. You should at least give me one magazine. I might not make it to the 3/7s. You'll make it. The zone likes you. Not a single hair will fall from your head until you make a fatal mistake. What makes you think it likes me? My friend didn't answer. I heard his quiet snoring. I touched the wound on my arm. There was no trace of it. I put my army jacket under my head and closed my eyes. In the morning, I wasn't surprised to find myself in proud solitude. My friend had left. With a slight offense, I pulled the canvas bag he had left behind toward me. He hadn't bothered to give me a can of canned food or a loaf of bread. I also found some incomprehensible objects in it. A translucent sphere that flew up when I touched it, and a small yellowish piece of something soft, like wax. I snorted at the flying object and put it back in the bag. I headed out to find the 3/7's bar. My friend was right. I avoided dangerous adventures and got to my destination safe and sound. I didn't even run into a single anomaly on the way. The owner was a bald, big-eared old man in a scuba diving striped shirt. That's why he was called the striped guy. He looked at me with disgust. We don't like soldiers here. They might punch you in the face. I want to leave the zone, I said. Can you help me? I want to get a free ride to the U.S. and visit the president, he snapped angrily. And you have wax and air? You're not so simple, kid. Where did you get that? Did you go to the beacon? I don't know what you're talking about, I said. My friend gave me these things. He said I could trade them for a ride home. You don't know about the beacon? He said in surprise. So you're not a stalker. And what kind of friend gives away such artifacts so easily? Just a friend. He's a free stalker. What's his nickname? I'm telling you, friend. Don't mess with my head, kid. I know all the stalkers by name. We have all sorts of them here. There's Crooked, Squinted, Wrinkled, the Cat, the Quiet One, the Rumbler. There are even gods, Thor, Loki, Hermes. There was one once, but he was killed. The zone doesn't like big names. There are different animals, kitten, mouse, turtle, ferret. And there's some exotics, farter or prostate. But there's no friend. His nickname is Friend. We don't have anyone like that. The old man squealed. He lied to you. Listen, does he have a scar over his right eyebrow? No. There was one here. But he wouldn't have given you anything. I even have his contact. I remembered. I turned on the PDA and was stunned. The list was empty. The suspicion grew in my mind. He was the most unusual person I had ever met. He appeared suddenly when I needed help. He carried a whole bag of amazing artifacts. He instilled fear in dangerous creatures. His words about the zone liking me. Who are you, friend? Of course, the striped guy lied to me, I thought. He said that the artifacts I brought were not enough. You're a deserter, kid. They'll find you on the website. And in jail, you know, they'll definitely get you. I'll do everything I can, But I need you to find me 2 or 3 more artifacts. Then I'll arrange your fate. The striped guy gave me a reinforced suit and provided me with the latest weapons and a container for artifacts. That's how I became a free stalker. The new life, full of danger, captivated me. Every day, I thought less and less about home. But wandering through the desolate farms or fighting off creatures in an abandoned city, I never stopped thinking about my friend. And one day, I met him. He stepped toward me from the shimmering mist that always covered the Mercury Lake. My friend was not alone. A grow-up Sprut baby was standing next to him. I recognized him by the mark on his neck. The mutant was already up to my shoulder. Muscles bulged under his red skin. "He didn't forget you," my friend said instead of a greeting, "and he wants to thank you." The reddish, muscular guy took my hand and rubbed against it with his tentacles. I almost screamed in pain. It felt like molten metal had been dropped on my skin, but the pain quickly went away. The octopus left his mark. "Now no Sprut will touch you." I didn't know what to say to that. And the young Sprut handed me an object. A small ball, pulsing with a blue glow, fell into my palm. The same one I had seen on him when he was a baby. "This is a beacon. It will help you find other artifacts. The giver will show them to you." "Thank you," I said sincerely. "I missed you, friend." He nodded. "We'll see each other sometimes. I'm glad that a duckling has appeared in our parts. The luckiest son of a bitch of all stalkers." We laughed. The Sprut also growled contentedly. And then the mist covered them both. And I stood for a long time in thought, tightly holding the small, weightless, but so precious gift in my fist. A gift from a wonderful and terrible world called the Zone.